Today is May 13th, 2022. This is episode 194 of Maelstrom Radio. Maelstrom Radio. With your hosts, Gladys and Shitter. And welcome everybody to Maelstrom Radio. My name is Peter. With me, as always, is my good friend and co-host Quinton. We did like a hard 2-hour pre-show before the show.
2-hour pre-show.
Something like that.
Some of us were in there for a lot longer than 2 hours. I think we were there for
there
4.
Was a strong pre-show.
4 or 5
pre-show.
We had a very long pre-show. It all started with a friend of the show, Tibian, was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna go play some ESO. If anyone wants to kind of just hop in and watch." And a couple of us joined in, and we just got a big group before we started talking about really creepy videos.
Mm-hmm. And we all preed
now
before the show. What?
Well, now we have a new emote, and that's just distressing.
Yeah, it's on our Discord, so you're gonna have to join our Discord to see what the emote is. It's not good. I'm glad I found it, but it's not good.
No, it is not good.
It's nightmare fuel.
I am not glad you found it.
I'm not happy I found it, but it's nightmare fuel, and it's there now. So
no.
It's my Chili. It's my favorite emote. It's the most British emote.
Y'all need therapy.
So, if anything,
just gonna say that.
Well.
So, what have you been up and playing? Because we know every single week we keep doing the same thing more or less. We have my streams on Sunday, your streams on Monday, our Tiny Tina streams on Thursday. So, what have you been doing outside of those normal streams?
Okay. On my phone, I've been playing Jump Jerboa, which is a
bullet constrictor jump rope game.
No, it's like a little Jerboa mouse. It's like a little those little they look kind of like little tiny mouse kangaroos.
All right.
And it's a game where you just jump, right? And it's free. It's a free game, and you can choose to support the developer. The ads are very minimal. Like, it's usually if you beat a couple levels, you get one ad. Very generous. If you don't beat a level, you don't get ads. Like, the creator only. I think it's one developer that made it. Very simple game. Beep boop music, like a little bit, chiptune music. It's fun. It's just a very simple puzzler. I've gold starred or gold flagged all the levels so far, and the developer
perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Got all things.
Yeah, so I'm on the last stage of the last current level until they add the next level. So I've been playing ESO. So I've been playing Elder Scrolls Online. Currently going through the first expansion. I was going through the Skyrim expansion because I really like Skyrim, but then I paused and started. I'll just go from the beginning. So come
join us in the original base game.
Yeah. Which is fun. It's still good. Like, I don't have any issues with it so far. Like, there's been some comedy moments, and I like the Argonian names. I did find a drunk guy dancing in fire, who thought he was a fire pixie. So just dancing, and I saw, I was like, what is this? Is like, I thought it was an NPC, and then I talked to him, and it's not an NPC. So, or not a player character. I thought it was a player character. Was is that person just dancing in fire? So
that makes a little bit more sense, at least.
I like how Chili's I'm just waiting for card games, but I would suggest to Chili that he might need to play a little bit to go get card games, because I think he's gonna need to be able to go through some zones. So
yeah, but it'd probably be easier if you can get around for the card games.
Yeah, because that's gonna be your problem, Chili's getting around, and you are not good at maps. So
yeah, you get a free mount when you hit level 10, I think it is. So that's worth it to get it.
That's also.
Although the mount is really slow.
Can Chili? No.
Chili needs to have money to pay people to take him around, but no there isn't.
they're adding their first multi-person mount with this expansion, so Chili would even need to even go play the new content to even unlock that. So this is not like Final Fantasy where Chili has millions and can just ask people to be like, please, sir, take this small Chinese child. And Chili's not a small character.
I will give you 1,000 gil in Final Fantasy 14 for you to take me across.
Yeah, right. He's like offering money in other games. He's like, do you play Final Fantasy? I can give you 1 million gil there. Yeah. So I've been playing ESO. I've been having a blast there. The ESO is a very relaxing game. Like, it's a very different style than Final Fantasy in terms of questing. I don't know.
I think part of that's still because we're really early in the game, right?
Yeah.
Like if you remember way back when, like 2.0 stuff in Final Fantasy, like the quests aren't really high stakes. There's not a whole lot. You're just kind of going back and forth and reading all the stuff as you go.
Yeah.
It's not like Endwalker or Shadowbringers where like everything you do has big lasting consequences.
I'm gonna go die now.
No. Chili banned from ESO from go. Chili banned from ESO for guild money trading.
Yeah.
Well, Chili, you're not. That
sounds about right.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds. That'll be the first of its kind too. Well, congratulations, Chili.
Mm-hmm.
Is there that's it. I think. I mean, I'm gonna go unlock my followers from Blackwood, so I have like a little friend with me that hangs out, and helps me do stuff. I found out you could bring those followers in with you and with dungeons. So if you have like so if you
as long as they don't take up a real slot,
yeah. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, like in theory, we could do a dungeon if I had a follower as well.
Yeah. We could 4-man a dungeon.
Need to catch up and actually get a dungeon. I mean, I
have dungeons unlocked.
I did my first. I tried to do my first group dungeon. Okay, I've done all the solo dungeons that I've come across that I could, or like that I needed to do as part of story quests and whatnot. But I tried. I have a quest to do a group dungeon, and so I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna walk in and try to solo it. And I killed the first boss. I probably could have killed the second boss.
Probably, yeah.
I'm powerful.
It scales.
I don't have a companion yet either. I am
a powerful wizard.
I'm a powerful Templar.
So,
I purposely am making my character based on like very overpowered specs. So
nice, smart.
Yeah.
Do they have a good party finder system? ESO? They do. Actually, the party finder system. They actually do. Because I've used it. It's actually.
I have not done any grouping stuff.
Fairly great, honestly. It's like pretty great. It's pretty solid, and I believe everything is level agnostic. So like, even though Quinton's a higher level than me, it doesn't matter. We can group and do the content. So it is,
like for comparison, like I've gone through because ESO has 3 different alliances from the base game, and so I was one alliance faction, and Peter was a different one. I've completed my entire alliance story. Including the like culmination quest that all 3 alliances share, or all 3 factions share. And now I'm starting on the second of the 3 alliances because things happen and it allows you to go back and do the other alliances quest lines. So I am now doing the same quest line that Peter's doing, despite the fact that I am still max level and working on my champion points right now.
And champion
despite
points
the fact that I am level 50 with I don't think it's like 80 champion points right now. Peter is still, I think, below 30 right now. I am behind him in the quest series, but I will catch up to him at some point in the quest series, and we'll still be doing the same quest. It doesn't matter that we're different levels.
Yeah, it doesn't.
We're fighting the same things, and those same things are going to be dying either way.
Yeah, it welcome to ESO where the points don't matter. So
the points matter because they give you cool things.
Yeah, that's true.
Like the difference between me and you is like I have most of my stuff unlocked now and at higher levels. So my abilities are more powerful in that sense. But only because the ability is like a higher level and I have better gear and whatnot, as opposed to like you're just half my level.
Mm-hmm. Also true. But I have a cool horse.
Me too.
All right, cool. Everyone gets a horse.
Actually, right now I'm riding around on a reindeer.
Okay. Yeah, same. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. I see you pre-ordered High Isle.
Yeah, I did. Did that a while ago. Sure. Season's like what?
I've also so where a lot of this came from as well is earlier today. I was also playing ESO. Working now on the Ebonheart Pact storyline. But Tibby had jumped into our server, and this is where our pre show started. And so he wanted to change his race. So I had a bunch of extra crowns and whatnot. So I gave him one of the changey things, and now he is an Argonian. And he has the lovely name of Amphibiant.
Amphibiant dash salts.
Yeah, he didn't do the dash salts piece. That would have been good. We was too excited and did it too fast, but it's a good name.
Yeah, Amphibiant's great. Doctor dash Amphibiant dash salts.
That would have been good. Or not a doctor amphibian.
Yeah, not a dash doctor.
Yeah.
Tibian.
Argonian names are great.
Argonian names are great.
Also great. I think I've never played an Elder Scrolls game. I think Khajiit, after playing through the Dominion quest line, I think Khajiit are definitely one of my favorite races. Argonians are definitely going to be a close second. And I really, really, really just don't like that third faction, the Daggerfall Covenant.
Nobody does.
There's nothing about it that I've actually enjoyed. Like, I had 5 minutes of interaction with that faction, and I'm like, okay, cool. Ebonheart Pact, like, you know what? We have our disagreements, but your leader's cool. You guys seem cool. Great. Argonians, perfect. Of course, I love the
no, and they have
Dominion,
the Nords, which are cooler than normal humans.
No, Dominion, like my faction.
Yeah.
Eldenard Dominion are great. They're the elves, wood elves, and whatnot. Like, I like them. Khajiit, really, really cool. Probably my favorite. Good thing I picked them. Daggerfall Covenant, like 5 minutes. I immediately don't like the entire faction. I never want to associate with anyone in this faction ever again.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to doing their quest line because theirs is the third one that I'll have to go through.
Yep.
And the second you'll have to go through. But
yeah, it's good times.
But it is interesting also seeing, like, because I've completed my factions quest line, like, I kind of started piecing the story together and like figuring it all out. Because when you jump into a new game like this, it's really hard to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Especially in ESO where you're doing a million side quests at the same time. And now I completed it. It was kind of like all the quests were coming together, and there was all this different stuff going on, and it was kind of like a culminating thing. And that was really cool. And I was like figuring out how it all went. And then now I'm back at the starting area for Ebonheart Pact. And we're back at the beginning of like, hey, adventurer, you just got off the boat. I'm like, all right, I guess I have to figure out everything again and start from scratch.
I'm not off the boat. You are wrong.
Well, I just got thrown into a house.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I mean, I didn't have to do the tutorial again because I had already done the tutorial. So it starts right on.
Just wake up at a
island.
house. You just wake up in a house. You're just like, hi, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hello.
And my friend, which I will not spoil who sent me there, but my friend was there being like, yeah, everything's here. Yep, you're all good. Okay. Have fun.
Go and do things.
Yeah. Which I think, like, if you don't know anything about it, and I don't think you do yet, you're really going to enjoy this last zone.
Probably. I will. You're probably right. I will do this, and I'll get it done. Just finding the time. But you know, normal things. I have to do adult stuff tomorrow. Go look at dishwashers and be like, that's nice. That's a nice.
Just look at one and be like, you wash dishes, you.
That's pretty. That might be what it happened. Do you match the other appliances and do you wash dishes? That's the only two. Yep. All right, cool. Let's go.
I did mine online.
Yes. We were thinking about that, but also because not all dishwashers are at the same location, so we want to go and like look.
Yeah.
And just be like, all right, let's just actually go look at them. Peter.
Yeah. Going to the extra store to see them is nice.
Yeah.
Also, if there's no sales on right now, just wait a week.
That's true too.
President's Day sales going to be hitting.
Yeah, Memorial Day or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah, President's Day.
Yeah, whatever the holiday is here. I don't remember what it is. The one here.
So I got spoiled.
Uh,
It's just a time saver. It's not spoiling. It's just
it is, and environmentally better.
It is environmentally better.
Water saver.
It is. Yeah. And it's just your stuff gets clean, and then you just wake up in the morning and your stuff's clean. It's like, hey, neat.
Yes, one day it'd be nice just to wake up and everything's clean.
Neat. Chili's like, I'm not fancy enough for a dishwasher. I have one plate. Old one plate. It's like one piece, but it's with a plate. It can't be one punch because then Chili wouldn't have a plate.
Oh, Chili's gonna be king of the podcast one day.
Chili's king of the plates.
So yeah, I haven't really done a whole lot this week either. I've been mostly playing ESO, grinding out my character and completing the story quests. That's been going fairly well. As I said, I hit 50 last night, and I'm up to CP 80 now, and working through the Ebonheart pack stuff. And then, yeah, that's pretty much all of my gaming, I think. Trying to think. I don't think I've played anything else actually recently.
Any phone games?
Yeah. No phone games. I don't tend to play a lot of phone games. They're not bad. Just if I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time, I'm just going to invest it on something that's going to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true, Susan. I did pop into Final Fantasy 14 today to go look at my house, which is beautifully decorated by Susan. We have the Maelstrom radio showroom in the basement, complete with multiple frog checks. And a beautiful Ace Pride flag on the wall, which was really cool. And I was very happy to see it. I was really excited.
Yeah.
And then my upstairs is, of course, very blue right now. And it's very, very chill and calming with the orchestrion playlist. And there is glasses. Yes, there is glasses on the table. And lots of tea, of course.
Yeah, it's a great little spot. Once I get
if you haven't checked it out, have you looked at it lately?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And yeah, you've seen all the recent stuff.
I've seen all the recent stuff. I know. Also, I walk by and I look at Susie's computer when she's playing in there, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. So I knew about what the shenanigans were happening with the flag on the wall. So.
Oh, I had no idea. I was just walked in. She's like, yeah, there's one thing I added. I can just like, okay, I can't get through this bookshelf, but oh, there we go. It popped through. And then I went and saw it, and I saw the lovely flag. Wow. Yeah. So shall we get to our news? We can try to we had a long intro today. We can try to breeze through the news.
Yeah. So speaking of houses, Final Fantasy 14 Housing Lottery finally returns on Thursday, May 26th at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Along with that, if some of you lucky folks out there will get a free house.
Yeah. So if you would have won your house previously, you will have a chance to claim it again after the patch upcoming on Tuesday. And then if you did win the house, but you had already gotten a refund, they're voluntarily asking like, hey, you can exchange the gil back and give us the money. I'm not sure why you would do that, but you could do it. Or you can just not pay for the house at that point and spend extra gil on some decorations. So
there's going to be somebody out there. There is going to be somebody out there that's like, I will be an honest person and give them the money.
100%. I feel like Chili would be one of those people.
Yeah. It's like the returning the shopping cart. It's a judgment on like if you're a good person or not.
Chili would, yeah.
If Chili got a large house, Chili would pay for his large house because I think it's also like I've earned this and then I'm paying and yeah. So also he would have a giant candy house and so that's all he wants.
I mean, why not?
The
other thing, so I make sure that if you were in the lottery and you didn't win or there was some issue with your house, make sure you go and check it just in case. And then you can go and if you didn't win a house, go again next Thursday and good luck.
Yeah. Steam/Valve antitrust lawsuit is back on, so we'll see how the computer lord and savior Gaben is gonna handle.
I looked through it. Like I'm not a lawyer. I don't think that the lawsuit's gonna end up going anywhere. Some of the arguments they're making might have tried to make sense a few years ago, but there is some sort of competition now, and it's not great.
But there's still competition.
There is, and like the arguments that they're making are valid in it, but I think that Valve can probably successfully argue that it's not just them anymore because there are other players now. And if it was like, if they were trying to say that multiple companies are like price fixing and doing all of this with like that 30% cut and whatnot, I could see that maybe making a little bit more room, but just saying that like Valve is a monopoly and they're charging way too much and whatnot, like I don't think that's gonna be able to kind of. I don't think the lawsuit's gonna unfortunately go too many places. I'm hoping it'd be nice if other entities started jumping on like, hey, we don't do all this stuff, and like there's a lot of things that Valve does have around that community aspect of they have that momentum. It's very hard to break that. Even Epic, which has been pouring tons of money into their store and exclusives and whatnot, like they still haven't really broken that that into that market as well.
Nope. But
so
I mean, I have a feeling their lawyers will argue they have Epic Game Store, which is competition. Microsoft. I think they'll even throw in.
I don't think they can argue. I don't think they can argue Microsoft on that one.
You don't think they'll argue that Game Pass?
Microsoft doesn't have a store in the same sense. Like Game Pass is fundamentally different than the Valve model and Steam.
I guess.
So I don't think they can argue that those things are equivalent.
Are similar.
It's definitely a competitor, but it is different competition and
Yeah, Chili's there. Yeah, Uplay Store, GOG, Windows Store. I mean,
I don't think Uplay would be considered. GOG is possible. Yep,
GOG is possible. Epic,
Windows Stores is definitely not. I don't think that's
Windows Store and Xbox. Technically, you can buy games on the Xbox, but if you have Game Pass, why bother? So,
yeah, like Windows Store sells games, but it'd be the same as them trying to say like Best Buy has an online store, therefore. That's a competitor, and it's not the same thing as Steam. It also doesn't compete whatsoever with Steam in that sort of sense.
Our competitor, GameStop. Do you think GameStop's behind this? Yeah. Do you think Big Game is behind?
Games in the UK, not.
No, okay, no, fair enough. Overwatch. Oh yeah, I forgot. We talked about this in our pre-show.
Yeah, if you weren't in the pre-show, well, unfortunately, there's no recording for that, so you missed out on a lot of fun conversation.
So let's do it this way. Did you know that you can measure someone's?
No, you can't.
Did you know mathematically that I, on a scale, am at least a 6 on the ethnicity scale?
All right, there we go. So for anyone who hasn't heard, today, it was announced that Activision Blizzard King, ABK, is using an automated tool with, surprise, AI.
Yeah.
Thanks
to MIT.
Rate a character's diversity on metrics like gender identity and ethnicity. And if any of that threw big red flags and warning bells in your mind, you'd be correct. It's absolutely abhorrent, and it's pretty funny that they would try to do this, and you missed some great conversation earlier in the pre-show,
and I want to make sure it's clear. Yeah, I want to make sure it's clear. It's not a tool that ABK has developed. It's a tool that MIT Game Lab developed, and it's something that they want to push to the whole industry. So Activision Blizzard may be the first to kind of test the waters and use it, but they are trying to push this to the whole industry. So head on a swivel out there, folks. If you're a lady that is Hispanic and you have and you're deaf, you rate high on their scale, the math scale. You're good. So
don't use numbers to justify your diversity, because even the fact that you're considering that is probably a huge red flag that you don't actually care about diversity.
Chili, I have 1 in every category except age, which I have a 4. Oh, that's right. The scale doesn't work as if you're white, you're 9. No, it's the other way. Like the more ethnic, the higher the number. So the more diverse, the higher the number. So
I think when we were talking about it earlier, they had an example with a couple characters.
Yeah.
And
oh, my favorite.
There's 3 characters, and 2 of them are very white presenting, and one of them is black presenting. Like, and the one black character actually scored the lowest in the diversity rankings for whatever reason. So this is a top tier tool.
Yeah. Oh my god. So it was Zarya, Lucio, and God, I forget the third one's name. The mechanic dwarf that I never remember his name. So
I couldn't tell you. It's Overwatch.
So oh god. What? Just it's insane. It's the whole thing's crazy. Like
yeah. Was it Torbs?
Yeah, Torbs. Thank you.
Okay.
And it's my favorite is sexual orientation. That's my favorite.
It's
so
many things wrong with this.
Sexual orientation, gender identity, body type, like everything is being judged and scrutinized and measured, and it's Torbjorn, molten core. You know what players want for you to make fun characters, and for you and real quick, hire people that are of these races and genders and every other method instead of having a robot do the work for you.
Have diverse voices in your company
and
so you don't end up making mistakes like this.
Because if you do, so so why with the why I mean that doesn't mean they're going to use it yet, right? Like this is just a in progress like tool.
The fact that they're considering it even does not bode well.
It does not bode well. I think the backlash might be enough for them to be like Nate's route. So with that, Blizzard also in 9.2.5 of World of Warcraft, the World of Warcraft team specifically, and I think a lot of time when we talk about ABK, it's good to say sometimes it's just Activision and Bobby Kotick's side of things that are doing weird things, and not so much the Blizzard side of things. And this, I have to say, is a good.
Sometimes there is times when it's just like, no, Blizzard is pretty bad too.
Yeah, that too. But this is good.
But not this time, yeah.
No, not this time. So they're going to have a social contract that pops up when the new patch drops, and you have 2 choices at the end of the social contract. You can accept it, or the other option is exit game. They will not let you play the game unless you accept the social contract. And I know what you're thinking. What does it say? So I'm going to kind of TLDR it. So they're stating that World of Warcraft is a world for everybody to play, to escape the real world, and with that they want you to do your best to connect with other players, play as a team with your fellow players, assist other players that you encounter in the world, and help answer questions to the best of your ability. So essentially treat others how you'd want to be treated, treat them well, treat them with kindness. A lot of things we see in Final Fantasy XIV, of course. And they also say they want to recognize that the internet's not always a safe place. So with that in mind, things that they're not tolerating any longer or will never tolerate anymore is hate speech, harassment, spamming, advertising, no harm to your fellow adventurers. And they want people, if they see it, see something, say something, and it can go, from a ban up into including suspension. And I think this is great. I think this is putting it out on the front that, hey, we're not going to take it anymore. You're not allowed to do this. Rather, and again, as Shantyman Gaming said, don't be a dick as part of the EULA. The idea is this: just be nice to other people. And I already saw people on Twitter saying, well, I'm not returning. And you know what? If you're not returning because they're asking you to be nice to other people, good. don't show up.
Yeah.
And guess what? The game will be better for it. So
yeah. I think that this, I'm still, the wording of what they put into it is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that
it's a start.
Especially because it is a spirit of the letter rather than the like the exact word. If someone is trying to get around with like, oh, but it doesn't say exactly this, but you're still trying to be a dick, like, no, they'll get rid of you anyway. Like, in theory. So I think this is all going to come down to is how well they enforce it. Because they can have this in there, but if they don't come down and strongly enforce it, it's just going to be another checkbox that people go like, click, and they're going to ignore it.
Yeah.
Which won't help at all. So if they do end up ignoring it, if they staff up, they have the moderators, the DMs, whatever,
and they
GMs to go through and actually make sure that all of the complaints that are going to come in are going to be able to be handled relatively quickly, relatively consistently and thoroughly, then I think that it would make sense. Like,
it's going to be a lot of mess around and find out. I think a lot of people are going to try to see if they can push that button to see. And if Blizzard holds their ground, which is with everything that's going on, I think they should. You think they would? That if people are like, and then you're going to see them come like, oh, I actually got banned. And they're going to say that on social media, and they're going to, because people are going to complain on social media.
People are going to cry and be sad, and then they'll be just like,
I'm mad at Blizzard because I got banned because I was mean on the internet. Now I'm sad and I'm going to complain.
Honestly, it would be kind of cool to see like Blizzard's numbers completely drop as people started getting banned, but people hearing that caused their numbers to go back up because people started checking it out again. Like, that would be a cool cause and effect of like it dropped because people were getting banned, which in turn made other people go back and want to check it out again because, you know, it's less hostile.
Shandy, you're Shandy's right. Shandy's right.
And honestly, looking at like screwing around and finding out, Final Fantasy's been hitting that a lot this past week.
Sure have. So, you know, out of the news into the frying pan. So there was a Lodestone post this week about third-party tools, and well, boy, at that when I first read it, I was like, huh, I've done this before. Same as I thought. Quinton, we've been playing this game now for a while, and we've heard this. We've seen these posts before. We've heard it all before, and I thought, oh, surely this will just be another drop in the bucket, and everybody will just go about their business. And oh, how wrong I was. The internet blew up.
You forgot that we're mid patch cycle. People don't have better things to do right now.
I know.
Plus, there's controversy that involves the ultimate races, and that's always fun.
Oh my god, it's so angry the internet became. So let's discuss third-party tools / add-ons / mods for MMOs, and it's where do you want to start with this? I guess we should start with Final Fantasy 14, or do you want to start with other games first?
Quick disclaimer: most of the stuff that we're going to talk about isn't specific to Final Fantasy. Peter and I both been playing MMOs and games in general for years and years, so a lot of what our experience comes from is pulling from multiple games all over, different genres, different styles of games. Some games where add-ons are welcomed and encouraged, other games where they are not. So this is where we are coming from. And with regards to Final Fantasy in particular, I think that there has been some really good discussions, a lot of really super heated discussions and not very civil discussions, but kind of going through all of it, I think there's been some pretty good points brought up through this all. And that is that I agree that in general, like Square Enix has always said, third-party add-ons that allow you to see things that are not normally in the game are things that should not be included. So things that let you inspect like remaining health or upcoming attacks or that sort of stuff give you an unfair advantage over other players, and that's stuff that they don't want, and that's what I think they're trying to discourage. But they can't really monitor anything. Things like things that help you kind of see. So then there's a whole slew of like accessibility mods and things that help it make the game playable to people that might not have that need that extra bit for accessibility. And that's something that they actually acknowledged in this post, being like, hey, we realized that we aren't as good as we'd hoped. And those are things that like those mods are making a real impact for people. They are solving a real problem that players have, and that's something that they probably should have identified earlier and started working on a long time ago. So I'm hoping that like from all of this, Square starts improving their UI and gives us a lot more options in terms of accessibility, how we can view things, how we view different pieces of information, so that we're able to do a lot of these things. But at the same time, like they're coming down with like, no, don't use all these sorts of add-ons and stuff. I think that's a very fair stance. And most people, I think, understood that sort of thing. So I think it's mostly people that were trying to use this in ways that were not necessarily appropriate that are probably upset, as well as people that were not using them and realized that they were competing against others with unfair advantages. And that's not even to say like the PvP mods and stuff that play your character for you. Like that's just flat out. That's always been against terms of service. That's always been bannable. And actually,
I don't like you.
The
for
console
that, by the way.
versions. Yeah, no. I'm like, how do I die as soon as I walk into everything? I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's too unhumanly quick. Yeah.
But like even Chili here said, like the console version still doesn't support colorblind mode like PC does. I didn't know about that. PC has had that for a while. It's a really good accessibility option. There's no reason that console shouldn't support that. And
Not at all.
We need a better support on across both platforms, PC and console, so that one, we have access to all the different features that both have, so that we can support it on both, but also add more features to just increase that increase the accessibility of things.
Yeah. So with all that said,
that's my take on Final Fantasy 14.
And my take on 14 is alongside Quinton as well. I think part of the problem is always, are people using, certain things like, okay, yeah, there are the timer mechanics, and there are people that use those because, for example, like we discussed this a little bit the other day, like, what if you're a raider that's deaf, right? And team communication is very important, and there's call outs, right? And there was an argument made by one of the streamers that said, hey, Discord could be used because somebody can give you call outs, and therefore it's a third party tool. And then we can argue, no, it's not a third party tool. It's like I don't want to say second party tool, but like a standalone.
It is a third party tool. It is a third party.
It is a third party tool. And to be fair, like there are bots that people have created for specifically Final Fantasy 14 that do the same thing as ACT does and do call outs for you during a fight. It will just pop up in your Discord window versus your screen. There's no difference. That's a third party tool. Market board tools are third party tools. One of the Final Fantasy 14 bots, you can check market prices across all your data centers for items. That's a third party tool. If you use that, if you say, oh, DPS meters and this is not, and then like go use that bot on Discord, guess what? You're using a third party tool. And I guarantee you there are people that use that bot and use any of the Discord Final Fantasy 14 bots. Guess what? That is a third party tool. Not Discord itself, but the bot. Like what you're using is attaching itself to the API and giving you some advantage, right? Like if somebody doesn't go in and check, like literally log into every data center and check prices, you're getting an advantage over them. And let's say if you're like, oh, this item is selling like hotcakes on my server. Let me check all the servers at once so I know what server's selling at the least and go make a profit, right? That is you. Susan's right. The spiffing Brit used the market board tool in his recent FFXIV video to show that he can go from being having zero money to a gillionaire very quickly. He did it within like a couple hours. He went from like 8,000 gil to like 1,000,000 gil. So using the tools to assist you in any form is technically against terms of service. Like, and and saying that, oh, it's an unfair tool when it comes to combat, anything else is also unfair. It also falls in under the modding the character UI, which I can't even tell you or begin to tell you how often I see character models that don't exist in game, or hairstyles that do not exist in game, or outfits that do not exist in game. It's a lot, right? And I was gonna say, you can't pick and choose, right? There's people out there that are trying to argue the fact of, no ACT, but I want to keep my hairstyles in this. It don't work that way, Chief. I'm sorry. You can't have one.
And I think that's where we have to start defining different pieces here, because like we use the word add-on or third-party tool as a generic catch-all for literally everything, as we just kind of went through. But there are there are different categories here of add-on. Like there are bots that play for you, that will snipe in PvP, use abilities as soon as they're up on cooldown, all those sorts of things, move you out of AoEs. Like those, I'm pretty sure everyone can agree, not cool. Let's not do those. But down the other end of the spectrum, you have visual mods like technically like a G-Shade or something that changes the look of it, is technically a third-party tool.
Yep.
But it's just changing shaders. It's something that's just changing the colors on that isn't something that like Square is really going after. I don't think they would ever call that a third-party tool, but it is still technically a third-party tool or mod.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to categorize and make distinctions between these different changes or these different third-party tools in order to figure out like what is quote acceptable and what is not. And that's where Square's always kind of been very murky.
And still now they still are, because they're saying we are not going to sit there and develop technology to scrub your computer to be invasive.
They can't do that. That's a privacy.
And that's a privacy thing. Like we can't go in and scrub. So what is also happening is that our people now are going to streamers and seeing if they have G-Shade or have ACT or DPS meters or whatever the case, and reporting them. And I know
that's on them.
That's on them. Yeah, that's a risk.
Those don't show up on. Well, G-Shade probably would show up, but like DPS meters and parsers and stuff do not. Yeah, Shady Man, that's a good thing. Performance versus aesthetics versus accessibility.
Yep.
And some of those are a little bit murky as well. Like there is a line between performance and accessibility as well. Because, for example, if you are looking at the boss and the boss has 100% life, you just see 100%. We get a percentage based from the client. That's what we see. That is performance, that is accessibility. But say it makes more sense for you to read the raw numbers. It has 100 out of 100 life. Well, how much of that is accessibility? How much of that gives you an edge on performance? If you know that you're doing 100 DPS, then it will take you 1 second to kill this boss. And that allows you to get to a lot more information and run into a lot more questions of like, are we doing okay? Like what's going on? And that turns now from an accessibility point into a performance point, which does make it very difficult to kind of assess and judge a lot of these things.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it also is that, are you running with people that beforehand you say, hey, listen, like, do you mind? Is this what I'm going to do? Like, in Final Fantasy, there's like, again, it was always the unspoken word, right? Like if you used it, you kept it to yourself. Like if you were with friends, they may say, hey, how was my DPS? Like, hey, how's my DPS? Or again, it's about performance versus aesthetics versus accessibility. Again, like the timers, right? That gave somebody an advantage. But again, if somebody was deaf, right, that was an accessibility thing, not a thing, until they got comfortable, like especially with like new content. Like if I'm saying this and if I was on a raid team and they knew that I was deaf or hard of hearing, and they said it, and then I used the timers just so I could not know the moves, but just so I can get the flow of what's happening at the timing, and then turn it off. There are times where people just do that just to get the understanding, so what their team is doing together, and then turn it off, right? Like they're like, I just need to know what's happening to understand what these call outs are, because essentially what there are is timers but call outs, right? And there is that, like, it's, what is it being used for, and is it being used against somebody else? That's always the thing too. Like, hey, you keep missing this, and are you like that's where I think that's a lot of where this comes into play. Like, are you using it to hurt somebody else's time in the game? much
Well,
like
I
this also
think that also
contract
comes
with World of
into-
Warcraft.
But I think this also comes into play with events like the Race to World First, right?
Yeah.
Like technically, if they were using add-ons and whatnot, it doesn't hurt anyone else. It's just their own progression. But they're basically entering a competition using tools that are not allowed, and that hurts the community as well.
Mhm.
So it's a very tough thing. Whereas like if you're running a dungeon just by yourself, yeah, you might use these tools to help yourself. But if you're doing it in order to win a competition, that's a whole other story as well. And again, we get to that gray area. I think this is a really good point you said, like with the like call outs and stuff for people who are hard of hearing or deaf, that like I'm kind of split on this. Like if you're using it for personal use, maybe I can understand that, but you can effectively play this game with no sound, no callouts, no nothing, and there are enough visuals on screen, color blindness filters on console accepted, that you can see everything that's going on and run and do this. Like I know one of the fights that has been brought up a lot of times has been the first extreme in Endwalker, and a lot of people don't know that fight or they're not familiar with that fight because it is a very mechanically intense fight. In that, there's a lot of stuff going on the screen. There's a lot of stuff going around, and it's a dance effectively. You see what's happening. You figure out where the safe spot is. You move there. You're safe. A lot of people don't want to learn that or don't go through and learn that. So they just find someone who knows that and they follow that person to each spot. And arguably, like, if you don't have callouts, if you don't have people like doing all this, you can still do that fight.
Yeah.
Like people learn how to do that fight and are the ones that are that person that you follow. And they know these fights pretty well. Like I know that fight. I don't need callouts. I don't need to do it. I can do the callouts for this fight. So other people should also be able to do that if they are interested in doing that content.
I agree. I mean, I don't disagree
Right?
with you. Like, I agree that, but what if somebody had like, and you know, Cass is in our chat. Cass brought up a good point that what if somebody had like memory issues, right? Like even short-term memory issues. Like if somebody did a call out, hey, this is coming up in 30 seconds, and didn't say anything else after that, and you forgot, like, oh, this thing, like maybe having that thing that you can constantly stare at, even though it's giving you some sort of advantage, it might be, again, it's like, is it a, how are you using it, and are you using it to hurt others? It versus, again, there's the gray area, right? Like, how is it being used? Who's using it? And like,
I'd say like not even without the add-ons though. Like the game is designed to give you these visual cues and give you these cues so
Yes.
that you are aware beforehand,
mm-hmm.
and usually immediately beforehand. So you're given enough time to identify that something's happening, figure out what it is, adjust, and continue on. So
Yeah.
usually you'll have that from the game itself already. In the event that like most people aren't able to do that sort of stuff, it shouldn't necessarily, and this is something that WoW has gotten really bad about, you shouldn't have to rely on a third-party tool in order to clear the content. If a lot of people can't figure out these cues, the content should probably be adjusted so that the level of people that are clearing the content is similar to what you would expect, right? Most people in Final Fantasy are never going to touch Ultimate. That's just probably a pretty big reality.
That's
Most
very
players
true.
will
Yeah.
never touch that.
Yeah.
The people that do know that it is more challenging content and they're going to have to put in more effort to learn it and do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be harder than if you went into a dungeon. But everyone will be able to run normal dungeons, right? So in that sense, in terms of balance, the normal dungeons should have enough queues and be forgiving enough that you can run that content regardless. You don't need add-ons, you don't need special help, you don't need callouts. You can just go in and do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going to go and do like Savage rating, Ultimate rating, you need to be more cognizant of these things are going to happen, and it's possible that it's possible that you might not be able to do that content because it's not accessible to you. At that point, add-ons become questionable because if we like, I can't do this if I had this extra add-on, but that comes into a really gray area with like, should you just not do this content? And like Shandyman Gaming said in there, like WoW started designing with add-ons factored in, and that's what I think is kind of a problem with WoW right now. Like WoW assumes you have add-ons, and you have very specific add-ons that do things, and if you don't have that, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Like, there could be 15 things going on during your raid. You need the add-ons to be monitoring all these things because you can't keep track of all of them generally. And if you don't have it, then you can't do the content, and that's difficult.
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy, we know every fight in there has been vetted without add-ons by people.
Yoshi
And
usually.
well, but like actual people who play the game.
Oh
It
yeah.
might be developers, but they play the game. They know that it is possible to do with the stuff in game in gear. So that I think is a big advantage to Final Fantasy. And especially like we were talking about before, like if they hire more diverse people to help bring accessibility into the game, they will probably have better points of view where they're like, hey, we're going to do a visual cue here or an audio cue here. Like, okay, how do we also show that so that people can access that who might not be able to see that cue or may not be able to hear that cue, or maybe they'll start learning we should not do fire bosses with red stages and red AoEs because that's a thing that's been going on for years.
That should stop. I don't know why they keep doing that. That's
just
please stop.
Square Y.
I don't know why. I think also the other part of it is UI mods, right? Like they're not, and I'm not talking about G shade necessarily, but I am talking about like for
shaders are different, and for discussion purposes, shaders are very different from most like UI or other visual mods. Whereas shaders will just take the existing image and apply some sort of filter on top of it so that it changes the underlying pixels more or less. Whereas like a UI might actually changes the functionality, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify that.
I think one thing I can point to is the UI's cooldown. I don't know what to call it, circle, I guess, and like the tiny numbers.
Cooldown timer, yeah.
Yeah, the cooldown timer. There are UI modifications that Final Fantasy add-on developers made that bring that to a giant number, right? To like so it covers the I think so it ticks down so people see visually, like, because let's be honest, it's taking that little number and making it big, covering the button, so like, all right, once that ticks down to 0, I can use that ability again, be it cooldown at whatever the case is. And that helps people visually. That helps people. Is it an advantage? No, because it's just taking something the game already has built in and making it bigger. As I get older, I might need to make my buttons bigger so that
it's a little bit of an advantage, but yeah, I would argue it's more of an accessibility.
It's an accessibility thing,
a performance enhancer.
The same thing happened in World of Warcraft, right? Like Warcraft had the same thing, and then there was add-ons that did that, and then Blizzard was like, "That's actually a really smart idea. Why don't we just add that? Like, why don't we just take that add-on and add it?" They did, and it became an accessibility feature of the game. Like, it was just a quality of life. They did it with other things too. Another example is debuffs in World of Warcraft. Final Fantasy does the same thing. Debuffs don't show up in the party list. Like, they show up if you click on a person, then you can see the countdown. But in the party list, they don't. They don't count down. So that's a thing that UI mods do. I looked into this a little bit. So I was like, all right, that's another, another of a like useful, like, why is this baked into the base game? And to be fair, like, I think now based on this post, I think they're going to start looking at those, right? Like this, like something like, hey, give us time and we'll start looking at the things that are accessibility, changes. How can we add, like, it won't take them much to make the tiny timer bigger, right? It won't take them to say, hey, adjust the timer so it goes up. That's not a big deal. Or adding the debuff timers to the party, or buff timers to the party group, so you can kind of see when to reapply things, right? Instead of clicking on somebody and seeing it like, oh, it fell off, let me go. Like, you can actually see the timer. Oh, okay, this is going to drop off, so I can reapply this now. I think adding that stuff is good. I think there is a bit of a, what can they learn from the add-on developers and add to the game? and say, okay, cool, we can take that, let's add it to the game. Thank you. You know what? We may have not been thinking about adding this, but to see that it is useful for people, that's great. I think creating like there was a website, I can't remember it. I'm not gonna say it on if I did. There's a website that I think that emulated boss fights and savage fights so you can practice them. Third party tool, but it didn't affect the game, right? Like it didn't connect to the game, but still, like it didn't. I think
that's also a third party tool because it's not actually in the game,
but it did.
It's not using game.
It's not using.
It's not actually touching the game or doing anything.
It's not. So I don't know. Like
it's that would be closer to like a wiki.
A 3D playable wiki. So
kind of, yeah, but like that same sense, right? Like it's using information that you've learned from the game, but it's not actually interfering or interacting with the game in any way.
And to be specific, I think it assisted you in learning
exercise equipment.
It allowed you to like work with one phase. So like if you were having difficulty in one section, it allowed you to repeat that section until you understood it and did it well. So there are tools outside of the game that do that. So that's great. Joga,
really cool if we could do that sort of thing in like what is it? Sky.
Oh my god, now you get the Steel Sky C? Steel Sky C.
Stone Sky Ski.
Damn.
Stone Sky Sea.
Steel.
I had to Google it. I just get like where's steel coming in?
Steel.
Stone steel
rods. Dark. Jog abs. I'm assuming it's jog abs. Or Joga biz. Simulator doesn't affect gameplay. It's just a simple provide you info ahead of time. Yeah. Again, but you know.
No, Chili. It's the same. It is the same name every single expansion.
Steel slaps.
Simulacrum.
And so the thing as well that they pointed out is that the race for world first, right? They wanted to make people aware that it's not sanctioned by them. They don't run the race. It is a community driven thing. But the thing that Yoshi P stated in the letter was that, but a race should be fair, and I think that is the thing to take away, and I think that's the most thing we could take away from the Final Fantasy XIV aspect of it is that, yeah, races should be fair. No one should be given a unfair advantage during a race. So I get what they're saying, like it should be fair, but we're kind of hands off, but you know, don't do that, because I agree. Don't do that. Be nice, because you're everyone's watching, right? Like I'm not saying everyone, but a large amount of the community is but the community's watching, right? Like the larger side of the community, even the people that don't even care about high end, some are somewhat interested, right? Because people, they want to see what these raids look like.
It's exciting. It's new. It's like, hey, here's this thing.
And it was, and I will say that it was touching Heavensward, and a lot of us, Heavensward was great. It was like their number one like that was like their number one like expansion up until I think the last two, and Heavensward, like to see Harshaphant and all the story and what was happening and the weirdness with it and the time travel, like all of it. I think it hyped everybody up and everybody was excited, and to know that, you know, like if somebody was cheating or like using things to help them win, it sucked. Like it deflates the purpose. It kind of puts a pockmark on the races, and like it takes the fun out of it. Like especially that, like it like bums out the community, and it's like nobody wants to watch you again. Like that's the other thing too. Like nobody, like it takes like, then everybody's gonna like have this like thing. Is this group using tools, or is this group using tools, or is this group using, like, then it's always that question. You know, is it a question with World of Warcraft where they're like, everybody's using tools, right? Like they're just assuming like everybody's using tools. Everybody's got tools. Everybody's using tools. What tools? Like, or the other question, what tools are they using? Like, can I get a list of tools so I can play like this person? So I don't know. I think ultimately, I think that they really do need to look at stuff that helps people. I think adding more shade stuff to the photo editor wouldn't be a bad thing. I don't think that's crazy. I think especially with the graphic enhancements they're making, I think it'll help. I think a lot of people use G-Shade also to help graphically make the game look better for them. Like it's not as washed out.
See, that one's a little bit hard because everyone has a different, especially if you look at shaders,
Aesthetic,
everyone has a different aesthetic. They have a different opinion of what looks good. And in terms of like overall, what can Square put in effort to do? I don't think shaders is something that they really would consider high priority. It's not something that they're going to get a lot of return of, especially because the community does really well with G-Shade, and Nvidia has their own shader stuff in there as well, including some reshader logic. So like there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't think that Square really needs to re-implement or redo at this point.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it would be better for them if they're just like, you know what, let's support G-Shade.
Yeah.
Like unofficially just put out like, yeah, Nvidia shader stuff and G-Shade are not supported. We won't support it, but yeah, you can use it.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
but I think in the same vein, state that while we support NVIDIA shader and G-Shade, we are not supporting character modification software.
Right. Like be very specific. Like call out, these are the explicit things that we are going to allow. And nothing else.
Yeah. And
like even if it's to the point of like, you know what, NVIDIA is one of our partners, we are going to say like their shader technology, if you want to modify it, like that's okay.
Yeah.
But any other one, not okay. And you know what? If that means that G-Shade is no longer considered acceptable, all right.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, and I'm gonna say the name wrong again, so I'm gonna say jog abs. Because it's great, like you jog and get some abs. So jog abs. Said in chat, I think the other reason is drama is because it limits a console. Consoles can't add plugins, I believe. I also agree with you there as well. Like I think there's a
part of the reason. I don't think that's the entire drama.
No, but it is part of the reason, and it is. I think it's almost part of the reason why like games like ESO have separate console servers, right? They have like, oh, these are console server versus the PC servers. Because the PC servers can use mods, right? And they ESO or ZeniMax Studios have said you can use add-ons, it's fine.
They have sanctioned add-ons, so like they have their own add-on section APIs that they can deal with. Like WoW does, ESO does.
Yeah.
EverQuest technically didn't really, but your entire UI was like you could redo your entire UI. It wasn't so much mods, but your UI was fully customizable and moddable. So
yeah, but there was the map add-on, I remember, because people were like, and this is the throwback that only Quinton will know, but remember Chuina was like, when he's like, oh, you gotta get this map add-on for like EQ2, and I was like, all right, like, because the map was trash, the mini map is trash.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, it wasn't so much like there wasn't add-ons. It was just like, you know what? Here's our default UI. Here's an entire scripting language that you can write your own UI in. If you want to do it, by all means.
Do the work for us. We don't care.
Do it. It was like, just, do it. Here's an entire scripting language to build your UI. And honestly, I learned and I started writing my own UI components for my own use.
Thanks, EverQuest. You gave me my career.
Oh, no. I was a developer long before I started playing EverQuest.
Thanks, Duck Hunt. I'm just kidding. Chili says in chat, Final Fantasy 11 got a mini map add-on, but it was bannable. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So in the long term, I know a lot of people don't necessarily play other MMOs, or Final Fantasy 14 is their first MMO. And MMOs and add-ons have had a long history. I think it's just something
It's
that
interesting because the earlier ones were very add-on friendly, relatively.
they were.
Like the original ones weren't, but only because I think it was a technical limitation of they didn't know what to do. And then the like second generation, the first strong generation, I guess, of MMOs,
Yeah.
popular MMOs, that's the one that kind of was like, hey, add-ons are a thing. Good.
Yeah. And I think it's because they understood development time. It was like, do we spend development time on developing better UIs and doing this, or do we throw money at like content and making content?
Mhm.
And when you're developing an MMO and you're trying to stay viable, especially early day MMOs, where do you spend your money? Do you spend it on content, or do you spend it on UI? Or do you tell your community, hey, go ahead and make UI?
So you say that, but I would guess, without knowing it, I think it comes down to if you do the customizable UI components, that requires a lot more effort on the developer side because they need to build all of those pieces that allow you to customize it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It does
that
take
in
work,
itself is multiple jobs. So
Yeah,
I would think that like when it comes down to it, it would be easier if they do not allow add-ons.
Yeah, but they do, and it seems to work. Like I use add-ons for ESO, but because
Right.
I think I don't like the UI, and I couldn't figure out their damn. I don't know. They're. I know it's the same system that they use in the console, the other Elder Scrolls games for their inventory, and I was like,
I have no add-ons right now.
I just disliked how it looked, and I just made itself like a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer, especially the UI, like the bad UI. Like I cleaned that up and gave myself a fighting chance on it, and I gave myself a mini map because I can't do without. So
that was the one thing I was kind of iffy on with there's no mini map, and I've gotten used to it. It's actually not bad, and I can use that little bar at the top really well now.
Yeah, the bar at the top is fine.
And I can also hit select in order to open my map really quick now.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You play with the controller. So
I play with a controller. It's really easy on a controller. It's beautiful.
yeah, laid back game. So
It's actually easier, I think, than keyboard.
But again, like even like the third generation of like MMOs, like WildStar, right? Like WildStar was coming up at like post like the WoW boom, and it was still like I know
this is like height of WoW popularity.
Yeah, I would say yeah. And WildStar was coming out and offered add-ons and looked at World of Warcraft because they're like, what are they doing really well and how they get their community involved, and add-ons was one of them, right? Like for example, in WoW, Flight Pass took forever, right? Like sometimes you can get it didn't take as long as EQ boat trips, but you could be on a flight path for like 10 minutes, right? Like, and that's how you go, like, oh, I got to take this flight path down here and it's going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to go make a sandwich and come back. People made add-ons, and that's how the game Peggle was created, right? Like, I don't know if people know that, but Peggle was developed because an add-on developer created Peggle to play during WoW flights, and then eventually someone bought them out. So it's like somebody else was playing the game. It's like, this is great. We probably should get this person to make this game for us. So, whew. Chili says, do you think ESO will add limited mod support to Xbox now Microsoft owns the company? Probably. It's feasible that they will do that.
And I was typing here, I don't think that they'll do it because I don't think that it's easy to do, right? With PC, you can just install it and drop it in a directory and it's there, but consoles don't have that access.
They do, because remember, they added mod support for Skyrim on Xbox.
Did they? Maybe
they sure did. But here's the thing. If they do it, and that's why I say maybe, ZeniMax is going to have to hire a small team, right, to vet.
If they have to manage the whole store itself, yeah, that's probably not going to.
But they only selected. They only selected, like, at least for the Skyrim mods, they selected specific ones that would work well with the console version, and so they just had to vet them, right? Like they said, hey, this would work. so that way it knew it was going to brick your system, right? Essentially, they didn't want anything that was going to cause you to brick your system. If you brick your PC, that's on you. So they don't like you. They might owe you an Xbox, but if you break your PC, that's on you. So they just want to make sure it's nothing's going to crash, right? So like, but they did it,
and that's why I don't know if they would do it, especially because ESO is a service-based game, right? Like you get new content all the time. If an update comes out and it's going to break your mods, a little bit harder to recover from that if you break your mods on Xbox.
Yeah, so. And the way ESO add-ons work, there's a lot of libraries to install. Like you have to I need, in order for this one add-on to work, I need to install like 6 libraries to make this one add-on work, which is a pain. They don't come into like the great thing about WoW add-ons.
That's how software works.
Yeah, oh boy. But like a lot
invisible to most people.
It is, but not to me. I get this library to make the add-on don't work.
Or I mean, it's not invisible in ESO. I'm just like that's how most software is, relying on multiple libraries.
So, I don't know. I'm torn because I don't know what the future of MMOs are going to hold. Right? I think neither of us do. We don't know where they're going to go. We don't know if add-ons are going to be okayed, not okayed. I mean, there were people. I know people that Blizzard didn't okay their add-ons, like Belliar Gaming. We all know, popular YouTuber creating a game. He was working on a World of Warcraft add-on that essentially, I don't know if you know this, but essentially added voice acting, right? And voice read the quest to you, and essentially took what Guild Wars 2 Living World Story did for questing and did that for World of Warcraft. Blizzard put the kibosh on it because in reality it was taking it a little too far, right? Like it was taking the add-on, but then it's like using their IP and doing this, and like Blizzard was like, that's too much. We can't have you do that much because you're actually modifying, like you're adding text, and then it looks like they're paying people to do this voice acting and stuff like that, which they're not. So I understand why they said no. And Belliar wasn't mad. Like he understood, like once they explained like legally, like why they had to protect their IP for it. Like it's understood. People were pissed, but Blizzard had to protect their IP, and it's unfortunate. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I do not know what the future is going to hold for Final Fantasy XIV. I do know that I think it would behoove the team to look at some of the add-ons and say, you know what, this is viable. I think we can add this to the game. At least it's one less thing people have to worry about a third-party tool for. I agree with Quinton. I think that saying, hey, we support NVIDIA shaders and G-Shade, but please no longer supported, or please we never supported this, or character modifications. And I don't know. I almost want to get into like, we know that, I don't know if people know, but we know that if you post a picture of your character, I don't know if people know this, and I think some people don't. Because I saw people post like, oh, how will they know my character's in that photo? Believe it or not, Square Enix has the technology, or at least Yoshi P's group has the technology, that there is a layer of coding on your posts, and they know your server and they know where your character is. So don't do it.
Magic.
It's magic. You think that magic's not there? That magic's there, and they know. So just head on a swivel out there. Posting your new characters. What's wrong with you?
I think with my opinion on this is, ultimately, I think for the future, I hope that they ban all third-party add-ons. With that being said, I hope that they acknowledge that aesthetic add-on or aesthetic modifications, such as for G-Shade, are acknowledged and explicitly allowed. Not actual like character modifications or like file modifications, but shaders. Shaders, I think, should be explicitly allowed. Anything not allowed should be banned. And with that being said, I think that the right path forward is to open up a add-on API that would allow them to have sanctioned add-ons for adding accessibility pieces.
I agree.
So that could be as simple as, like Susan says, Teamcraft. Teamcraft is a third-party modification.
It allows
you to unfairly craft, but it is a quality of life improvement that really probably should be part of the base game. But if they had an API that allowed you to access that information, then someone could build that as an actual official add-on. So that's my stance, is that I think at a certain point, a company should, if they are against add-ons, which most companies are in this sense, they should build some sort of accessible layer that people can create reasonable add-ons, and then everything else should be banned.
Yeah.
Right.
At
that point, because at that point they're basically saying like, look, these are the things that we're cool with you doing, and everything else, no.
Yeah, that perfect. Honestly, if they did
reasonable,
I think that I honestly think that's completely reasonable as well. Like if they say, the character modifications are banned, they're banned.
Mm-hmm.
But they say, hey, listen, like we'll let you use timers and DPS meters, but with so far as long as you're not using it to harm the community, go ahead. Like, but then it's really policing it. Then it's like saying, if you go to somebody, it's just like that social contract for the World of Warcraft. You don't go to somebody and say you're doing bad, because then it's,
which I mean, that's already in game today.
Yeah, it is.
Right? You can't go and tell someone, hey, you really suck at this, because then they're going to get after you for third-party tools. But they could just as easily go after you for harassment.
Yep.
Like,
so, head on a swivel.
I think, but we can parse out. Yeah, but you still can't be a dick. Like, come on.
You can't do that. Just don't do that. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. So, I agree. I think they really do need to take the time and especially if we're planning the next 10 years, maybe plan this within the next 10 years as well.
Yeah. I could see this being like a full expansion thing. Like, this is like a 7.0 feature or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be, hey, by the way, this patch we're adding in APIs for add-ons. It's going to be.
So, and then at that point, then the community,
they have guidelines.
You're gonna have guidelines, and then at that point, the community has to make it. And then I think if you're a person that's very just very strong-willed against add-ons, don't use them or play something else.
Yeah,
I mean,
but most things have add-ons at this point.
So,
Guild Wars 2, I don't think does
play. I don't know, Animal Crossing. What do you? What doesn't Realm of the Mad God? That's an MMO, right? It's
Guild Wars 2. I don't think that one's got add-ons yet.
Play Guild Wars 2. Everyone go play Guild Wars 2. You can go and meet Rookery and find out why Rook's in game. Chili says, I admit that rule is painful. I was so close to breaking in a Keeper of the Lake run recently. Tank kept using Limit Break 1. And pulling with all the buffs popped. I wanted to tell him off so bad.
You can let the tank die.
You just let the tank die. You just let the tank die. You don't have to be mean. You just gotta let them die. And then if they do it again, you just be nice about it. Like, hey, you need assistance? Need help? This is your first time? Just be nice. It could be. We've all been there. I was red mage. I was red. Like Chili, you just weren't healing him enough as Verheal Chili. It's called Verheal.
No, it's Vercure.
Don't kill the party.
Very well then.
Very upset with this conversation.
All right, then.
Well, the 2022 Venfinia Madness Blitzball tournament is happening right now. Friend of the podcast, Dylan Thorne, is one of the organizers. The next event is happening Friday, May 20th, 8 p.m. Eastern. All match details can be on their Discord, and we will have a link for that. We'll put it in our Discord, and we'll throw it on our show notes. And we'll throw it into our chat right now. Please go support Venfinia Madness. I don't know if you know this, but we used to sponsor the lovely Maelstrom team. For reasons. The only all-girl team, because Maelstrom Radio, we're progressive, and we think and truly believe that
the person that was running the team.
that too. No other reason.
Yeah.
We
Well,
have
we're not fake diversity AI.
no. that team rated a 6. Episode 1. No, I'm sorry. We have gaming streams on twitch.tv/Maelstrom Radio Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. You should check them out. They're pretty great. They're pretty solid. So episode 194 happens on Friday, May 20th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. BST with special guest Emmy. So we're gonna talk to our friend Emmy. I hope Emmy brings her dog.
Ooh,
that'd be great.
We'll
I can't bring Poe. Poe weighs like 30 something pounds. So me holding up Poe is like holding up a satchel of potatoes. It's not easy.
I mean, you could bring Poe once.
Yeah.
Just stand on your desk.
Susan is correct. If you not watched the VOD for my Kirby stream,
yeah,
the ending got weird. It got real near Kirby Mata. So
that was cool.
I would go check that out. When we reach 666 followers, there will be Peter Escapes Hell mega stream. I will attempt to complete Hades run. That's right.
Please get this.
So that's right.
Please.
666 followers.
I've been waiting for like 2 years now for Peter to finish this game.
I will leave hell, and it'll be a long stream unless I somehow magically get it my first run, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So let's be real honest. There's gonna be a long stream.
Yeah.
And when we reach 777,
just over 30 people.
Yep. When we reach 777 followers, there will be a Kigurumi stream. We'll gladly wear them whenever we hit 777, even if it's hot out. Oh god, it's gonna be so hot. It's so hot. So we better
first get out of hell.
Oh, we better drop the temp in this house to like 6 degrees. So
also tomorrow. So if people who are listening to the recorded episode, sorry, you've already missed out. Watch us live. But tomorrow, Saturday, May 14th. 14th. Tune in. Chili is going to be part of a hard mode dungeon race. So there's the Heavensward hard mode dungeon race happening Sunday, May 14th, hosted by Shadow Zero Soul and Game Lord Geek. Running through 5 hard dungeons for Heavensward. Chili is the leader for the Moogles Around team. So you'll want to check that out. It starts at 6 p.m. BST, which is going to be math in my head. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard or Pacific PDT, and 1 p.m. Eastern. Yep, Susan's got it there.
Well,
I can do math.
I got one last thing. It's not even on the notes here. I got one last thing. We haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to plead with you all out there listening. Take the time. Take 2 seconds of your day and rate us on whatever magical app you use. Especially if it's Apple Podcasts, by the way, because I don't know if you know this. If you rate us, people will find us outside of you. We don't know why that works that way, but apparently, if you like us, other people will like us. That's usually how they tell their other people is like, hey, I'm going to pick on Susan, our producer. Susan likes Maelstrom Radio. And for reasons, we're going to show Maelstrom Radio in your feed because we think you would like also Maelstrom Radio. And then that person will click on Maelstrom Radio and then they'll like us. And then it'll just trickle down. It also proves that we are truly a podcast. So Cass also likes Maelstrom Radio. So whatever app you're listening to. So if it's Apple, if it's Stitcher, if it's Spotify, if it's Google, they still doing things. I don't know. Amazon, Bezos, we're not in the pocket of big podcasts, so we don't make money. So, but we do rely on you for your reviews and likes. So please, and if you take another 2 seconds, you can go follow us on YouTube. How about that? YouTube.com/Maelstrom Radio.
going to flip this a little bit as round two.
Mm-hmm.
If there are other streamers or podcasts that you think are really, really cool and you think that like we'd vibe really well, that we haven't already reached out and worked with, feel free to like mention them to us and we can go and check them out. Because we're always looking for making new friends as well. Like we've met a lot of people the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And Susan would absolutely love to reach out to all these people because she's really the one that goes out and is like, hey, look, there's this really cool person. And then Peter and I look at them and are like, do you think they even know who we are? And then Susan will reach out and they're like, hey, yeah, we know who you are. Like,
Sweet.
well, cool. So yeah,
You're in.
it's always nice to meet some new people in the community as well. And like we have a really cool community. I'd love to meet other communities as well.
Yeah.
That's how we pick up other people too.
Yeah, let us know first. If you do it the other way, we find that they may not come here, but if we have the chance to get them in here first, then they're trapped and they can't leave for an hour. So, yeah, or they won't know who we are, and I just bamboozle. It's the trick.
Yes, bamboozle.
So that till sea swallows all. Keep listening.
Maelstrom Radio is brought to you by maelstromradio.com and Blackfire Media. Produced by Flatus, Shintier, and Susan Sprinkle. Join us live Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/maelstromradio. Send email to show@maelstromradio.com, tweet us at maelstrom_radio, or join our Discord at maelstromradio.com/discord. Views and opinions expressed by our hosts and guests do not reflect the views and opinions of any companies discussed on today's show.